What's up YouTube, and welcome back to the Acura Audio Garage. Today we have a highly requested video, how to change the front speakers in your Acura TL. So as you can see, we have some adapters here for the tweeters, for the speakers, the actual speakers we're going to be using, some adapter plates to make this installation easier. If you're looking for any of this stuff, you can find it on our website. If you're not going to be using any of that stuff, it's going to get a little trickier, and you probably will have to cut the door if you don't have some sort of universal spacer, so beware of that. There's a huge argument online that the speakers are 6.5 or 5 1/4. I'll give you a quick view of what they look like so you have reference. So here is the factory speaker spacer, and here is the factory woofer. So they mount like this, and then it has 3 screws. So this is what you're working with, the kind of spacing, the size of the speaker, and the adapter plate from the factory, or spacer if you want to call it. You can cut these tabs and kind of just mount a woofer here by force with a bunch of screws. I've seen people do it. You don't have to do it that way. If you want to use a quality pair of speakers, you can use our adapter brace, our adapters, our spacer adapters, or you can cut the door. It's up to you. To upgrade your front speakers, you're going to need to remove your door panel, and you're also going to need to remove this cover right here. This cover comes off with just a little bit of massaging and pressure. There's no screws or anything holding it on. As for your door panel, you're going to have a screw behind this cover, a screw right in here, and clips all around the edge. Oh, I almost forgot. You're also going to have a screw right here in this rubber boot. So I'm going to get those screws out, and I'll show you what the back of the panel is, because the trickiest part about this is going to be loosening the cable that controls this latching mechanism. Alright guys, to remove this little door, it has a tab right here you want to get beneath and press down. In order to press that tab down, I recommend a hook tool. So you're going to come in from the side, grab it like so, and pull it out. You don't want to use a screwdriver because you'll scratch this thing up. It scratches very easy. It's poor, like a cheap plastic. So just be careful. You want to be real careful when taking that off. This screw down here, something that happens sometimes is the mechanism that holds it into the door spins as you turn the screw. So you need to apply pressure to that mounting mechanism in the back. So what you do is you take a pry tool or some tool and you apply pressure. I can't show you on camera correctly, but you apply pressure to it, making it not be able to spin, and that'll release the screw. This is just a regular screw. It just has a rubber surrounder on it, so make sure that you keep that rubber surround. So now we have this screw hole down here, so it's right below the armrest. It's just a Phillips screw. You can see the screw hole, but I don't really have a good angle on it. But you're just going to stick your screwdriver in there, and you're going to have to kind of feel around for the head of the screw that you're looking for. Here's what that screw looks like. It's very common for this screw not to come out, so it'll get stuck in the door panel. Like, the screw won't be screwed in, but it won't want to come out of that hole. So basically you just pull the door panel off with the screw, and it'll end up falling on the floor. So just look out for that. These two black screws are identical. Get some light in there. So they're both going to screw into that yellow material, and I'll show you what the screw looks like. The screw looks like this. You can see it kind of has a big head, but a regular screw body, and it's relatively short. Alright guys, on some other cars you would normally remove this or the switch. On the TL you don't have to. You just want to look out for the cable for this light. So there is a cable that runs for this light bulb, and it's actually attached to the door panel. So when you go pull the door panel off, it'll get in your way. And then, like I spoke about before, that cable that holds this latching mechanism is something that's going to trip you up as well. So to start getting the door panel off, I'm just going to start prying at these corners, loosen the entire bottom. It'll detach here from this piece, so this piece here isn't coming with you. It's going to stay with the car. So there you can see I started here, was able to pull, got the entire door panel almost ready to come off, And here's where I was talking about. It's detaching here, and now you can lift up. The only thing is that cable is going to hold you up, so you might want to get a buddy, or if you're experienced enough doing this, you should be able to reach around and disconnect that cable. For that cable, I recommend needle nose pliers. If not, there's a specific tool meant for it, but you can use 2 screwdrivers. There's a couple ways to work it. You just want someone to hold the door panel or have a way to hold the door panel while you release that clip behind this handle. As you remove the door panel, the other thing you need to watch out for is you're going to be coming up and over this locking mechanism, so make sure you do that. Don't just try to pull the door panel off. This doesn't come out with it. You're going to lift up and over like so, and here you can now see the cable I'm talking about. Next, you're going to have to disconnect here. And then here's the cable I'm talking about that runs to the light. So there's one cable going to this switch, and this cable right here is what I'm talking about. It has a tab at the top, so you press that down and that allows you to release it. And then the last thing is the cable I was talking about for that light. So it's another wire loom that runs down to that light. So to get these out, you're going to need a trim removal tool to extract them from the door panel. So here's your door panel fully off, and I'm just going to talk to you about those tricky parts. So here is where the door handle clip latches to, so you want to make sure that you release it and don't break that cable. Then you have all your door panel clips, you want to make sure they are there. And then here is the location where this wire loom hooks up to, that leads to the LED light or your regular bulb. Alright guys, to get this speaker off, it's just those 3 screws. They're rather long, so just be prepared if you're not using a screw gun to be unscrewing for a little bit. For some reason my GoPro started doing this funky thing where it started filming at a faster speed with no audio. I'm not sure what setting I hit or what happened to my GoPro that this started happening, but I'm gonna try to walk you through what was going on the best that I can. I did manage to also film the other side, but there's a lot of important information on this side that I want to share with you, so I'm just going to jump into what I was trying to explain to you here. So here I'm explaining to you that when you replace your component set of speakers for the front, you're going to need a component set. So you have coaxial speakers and component speakers. Coaxial speakers have the tweeter built in. Component speakers means you have an external tweeter like you do in the TL. So that speaker on your dash is a tweeter. When you go to replace it, you need to replace it with a crossover and then your tweeter. If you don't use the tweeter harness we have that has a capacitor built in to block some of the low end frequencies going to that tweeter, and you just place a new tweeter there directly, there's no crossover on that line. It's a full output from the amp, so you need to make sure you are crossing that signal with either a crossover or a base blocking capacitor. The other thing I'm explaining to you here is that getting wire from the door into the cabin or from the cabin into the door, etc., it's tricky because the connector is right on the door opening. So on the cabin side and on the door side, their connector gets in the way. So you would have to drill a new hole or drill through the connector or not plug the connector in all the way, which could result in some issues. So running that new wiring can be really annoying, really tricky. For this next part, I'm explaining to you how the factory speaker mounts and how you can kind of utilize that mount for a new speaker. Also, because of the way it mounts, when you go to mount a new speaker, there's nothing to mount to. So there's no screw hole, no rubber grommet for you to drill into. So now, if you're thinking about replacing your speakers, you probably should, because they most likely look like this. They're going to have some sort of rip tear that you're not going to be hearing all that well because the factory amplifier can't push it that far. But it's ripped, it's broken, it's a 15-year-old speaker. So when you're mounting the adapter, you're going to put the inserts first, and then you're going to work every screw at the same time. So their tolerances are very tight, so if you screw one first and then put it all the way down and try to screw the others, it might put you at a weird angle where it's not going to want to go in correctly. So just make sure that you're working all three at the same time. The inserts, you just push them right in. They fit perfectly in the hole. And then you line your adapter up. The inner 3 screws, you're going to use the same screws that you were using from the factory. For this case, we're using the Infinity Primus line of speakers, and we're going to be using our speaker adapters and our tweeter adapters so that we don't have to cut any of the factory wiring or utilize any of the crossovers that come with the speakers in the box. As you can see, the factory speaker and the speaker we're installing are very similar in their footprints. The magnets aren't much bigger than one another. They are more efficient. If you were thinking about using bigger speakers or a speaker with a bigger magnet, you just need to be careful that it's going to fit in the door and that the depth isn't going to interfere with the window track at all. Our speaker adapters allow us to just hook our speaker terminals up to our aftermarket speaker and then have something we can just easily connect in the car. As for the tweeters have their own connector. Our tweeter that we're using to replace with is very similar in size and will plug just right into the factory connector and give us something to hook up to our aftermarket tweeter, making it a pretty much plug and play installation. Alright guys, on the driver's side, it's very similar. You're going to take this cover off, you're going to take that screw out, this screw out, and then you're going to pop the panel off, lift up. Just be careful with that, door cable. And then that's really it. I'm going to get started. I'll show you the steps along the way. So with the door cable, you want to be very careful. It can break very easily. You're just going to unhook this part first, so it's going to be on the cable. You're going to release, you're going to lift up, and then you'll be pulling the cable away from here. So that little groove is how it latches onto the door. You want to just pull it away, be careful. And then you have connector up here. You have another connector right here. So green to there, this to here, unplug both. And then you have 2 on the door here. Alright guys, to mount our supplied adapter, you're going to receive 3 clips like this. You're going to insert them into the door. So right into this hole, you're going to take the clip, insert it. Take this clip, insert it. And with the last clip, you're going to do the same. Then we're going to line up the 3 holes with the 3 bigger holes of the adapter and use the same screws. Use the same screws that came out of the door to mount the new adapter. You want to do all 3 screws at the same time, so a little at the top, a little bit at the bottom, a little at the side, and keep working them down until it's fully secured on the door. Alright guys, when the adapter is mounted, it should look like so. So you'd see the 3 interior screws are what's holding it to the door. It's not going anywhere. Now we're going to mount our speaker right on top of that. To mount our speaker, we have 4 holes. You can drill more holes into this adapter, but they're meant to be used with the Infinity or JBL speakers that you can find on our website. So that's what they're designed for. You can mount other holes if you need them. Alright guys, so we mounted our speaker. Everything's in. Now we're just putting our door panel back. So again, all those clips are back in. All those connectors are back plugged in. And the last part we need to do is the door latch cable. Alright guys, to get the tweeter out, you're just going to take your hook tool and start on one of the edges. You don't want to damage your dash, so be real careful with the amount of pressure you use. Just want to start to get the side of it and try to lift it up. Eventually it'll come out. There we go. And again, you just want to be careful. You don't want to damage the dash. And then to remove it, it just has a little clip at the top. Press the little clip down and the housing comes out with the tweeter. So we're going to reuse this housing and we're going to put our new tweeter on it. So to get the housing off of the tweeter, you're just going to release the clips in these spaces. Then the tweeter will come off. Then we're going to mount our tweeter onto this housing. So this came with our speaker set. We're just going to place our tweeter into it like so. So you're going to go 1 terminal at a time. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab the top and the bottom of the tweeter and twist it to lock it into place. Sometimes it's a little tricky, but you just need to get it twisting. It just takes pressure. You kind of want to put some, got to be careful with the terminals, but you just want to get it to twist. In this clip, I'm explaining how to remove the original tweeter from the factory tweeter housing. It's just 3 clips. You're going to just pry it out. Then we're going to be taking the new tweeter and mounting it into the old tweeter or original tweeter housing with the use of a tweeter bracket that came with the new tweeter. We're going to be using super glue to glue the corners of the plastics together. With this super glue, by using small droplets, we're able to create a new tweeter mounting mechanism that will fit in the dash, won't go anywhere, it's secure enough, but also if you ever needed to remove the tweeter, cutting the glue off and inserting the new tweeter, inserting the old tweeter is still a possibility. There are other ways to mount the tweeter, but this is the most effective way we found that allows you to do it the fastest. And it is reversible. It's not a permanent modification to your tweeter housing or your original tweeter. To mount it in the dash, we're using our tweeter adapter harness. It's just going to plug right into our aftermarket tweeter with the spade terminals, and it's going to plug right into the car's tweeter harness and give us something to connect right away without any issues. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. So in this video, to summarize, we installed a set of front speakers in this Acura TL. The speakers we used are the Infinity Primus PR6510CS. We used our own tweeter harness adapter, our speaker spacer adapter, and then a regular speaker harness to make this installation as easy as possible. Quick, efficient, great sound. We also installed rear speakers, a rear sub, and the 5-channel plug-and-play amp. All that stuff can be found on our website. Again, if you're having trouble upgrading the speakers in your TL, I recommend buying the components that we have. Obviously, not everyone can afford that. If you're in a situation where obviously you can't afford that, but one of your speakers is blown, you can buy one of these speakers brand new. They're about $30 from like Acura OEM parts or other Acura parts stores. Here's the model number right on the back. So you just Google that, find the speaker, plug it in, and that's going to be your cheapest upgrade, so to say, because you're only doing that if your speaker's blown. If you're looking for better speakers, be prepared to spend money. The Acura speakers aren't bad at all, so if you're only going to put $40 speakers in there, it's not going to be much of an upgrade. If you're doing a lot of power, then I recommend cutting the door, putting a proper spacer adapter if needed, and then running new speaker wire to the door. If you're going to do a modest upgrade like our plug and play amp with the Infinity speakers, then the accessories we use are more than okay. So that's how I'm wrapping up the video, guys. There's all the information you need. If you have any questions about running wiring, impedance of speakers, etc., feel free to leave them down in the comments. If you're looking for any of the stuff we use, you can view it on our store, buy it there. And then if you are thinking about upgrading the radio in your TL, obviously check out our store as well. Everything you need is there. And then the last thing I want to say is make sure to like the video, subscribe. We always have content for your Acura here on Acura Audio Garage, and it's just going to keep growing. This video has been requested a bunch of times. Those adapters were in the making for almost a year, and we finally got them out. They're finally available for you to buy. So we're going to keep growing, keep evolving, so make sure you stay tuned. We sound the top and the inside and the sides and the underneath, so where my finger's curling, we really have a solid surface. So we're going to mount our speaker. For that, we have our other speaker adapter. It makes mounting real easy. You just line up the holes. It comes with some new screws. You put the new screws in, put the speaker on top, you're all set.
And I prayed again. Had a moment, but it came and went. y'all don't wanna play with him. There'll be morning, you like 8 a.m. Pinky ring till I get a wedding ring. Love my brothers, cut them in on anything. And you know it's king sign.